Hello, and welcome back. So I think I've decided to make this a regular series. I'm probably going to post a video every 2 to 4 days. So anyway, here is our Gundam kit all built, and I've painted half of it just so you guys can see the contrast between painted and unpainted. So on the left side, it's been primed, it's been painted, and we've added all the extra colors that were missing from the right side over here. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to fill some gaps right before you start painting. So if I bring this in um, like so, you can see that the shoulder pad on this side has been filled in and painted, and it looks like one piece of plastic. Whereas on this side, it is it's not finished. It's just pretty bad. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so for this part of the tutorial, we're going to need a leftover runners from your kit. You're going to need plastic cement. So this one is by Citadel. I previously used Tamiya, but they both work pretty fine. After that, you're going to need a empty paint pot or some kind of glass container, something that you can air seal. We're going to need a set of clippers. So I'm using heavier duty ones than the one I used before. A hobby knife. Metal file or some kind of sandpaper, and finally a polishing block to give it that nice clean finish. Okay, so we're going to start with cutting up your leftover runners. So just grab a couple of chunks, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut it about that big, just into a bunch of chunks. Like so. The smaller the chunk you have it, I guess the faster mixing you'll have. So we're going to cut up a whole bunch of these. And we're going to take all of these, and we're going to put these into the empty paint pot, which I've already done. And then after that, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pour in the plastic cement. So I've already poured it in, so you're going to want to pour it in so that it covers about double the layer of the plastic. And then you're going to want to give it a tight seal and let it sit for about 3 to 4 hours. And every once in a while you want to take some kind of stirring tool and just go in there and make sure that all the bits are being melted. So we'll come back after that's all done. So what you should get at the end of this is a kind of gel-like consistency to it. So I'm going to take the stirring stick, and I'm just going to show you that it kind of looks goopy. It's a bit runny. It's not completely solid, but it is also not a liquid. So there you can see it is pretty goopy. It's got a good consistency there. Okay, so we've got the two pieces of the shoulder piece that we've taken apart again, and what you're going to do is you're going to get an old brush, something that you can throw out afterwards, and we're going to apply it like it was a paint right into the seam. So I'm going to dab a little bit on the tip of the brush, like so, and then we're just going to spread it along the surface where it will be making contact. So we're going to just put an ample amount right along that seam there. Like so. Okay. And then we're going to fit all the pieces that are supposed to go into it, like this red one here. And then we're going to close it up, like so. So as you squeeze it, you can see that you get a little bit of it bubbling out, and that's going to be good. And what we're actually going to do is going to put on a little bit extra, just over the top of that seam. And now we're all good. So you're going to take your brush and you're going to want to wipe it down on a piece of paper towel or something, and then you can wash it out in the sink or in your cup afterwards. So we're going to give this about half an hour to completely dry, and then we're going to come back and touch up that surface. So while we're waiting for it to dry, I'm gonna test this out on a piece of Warhammer plastic as well. So here we have the two halves of a Space Marine torso, and I'm gonna be doing the exact same thing. So I'm going to grab some of this putty, and I'm going to apply it along the surfaces where the pieces are joined. Like so. And we're gonna put the two pieces together, just like that. And we'll let this dry as well. Now that everything's dry, it's time to take a look and clean up our pieces. So first we have this Gundam shoulder pad. So as you can see, it's completely dry, but it's still a bit rough. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our hobby knife and we're going to scrape alongside the gap filler to remove the excess. So we're just going to gently scrape away like that. Okay, next we're going to take our file or sandpaper, so this is about 1,000 grit, and we're going to start with the rougher edge, and we're just going to gently scrape down the length of this line here. And then finally we're going to take our polishing block and just buff out that surface. So as you can see, it's pretty smooth, and we're going to give this a paint job. Okay, so we've got this piece that we've airbrushed, and we're going to add some more color to it. If we look on the instructions there's a bit of red. So we're going to thin down our paints a little bit with water. And then we're just going to paint it onto the parts that are red. Just like that. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to put on a second coat. So here's the side pelvis piece. It's all nice and finished. I put a little matte varnish on it, so it is ready to go. Here's a list of the paints that I used for this build. I did use an airbrush for the majority of this paint job. I'll probably be making a full tutorial on that sometime in the near future. Anyway, what I started with was the Vallejo Surface Primer Black. So this gives you a very nice matte finish. I didn't even paint on top of it. The black I thought was pretty good. After that, I used Vallejo's Mecha Air range. So this range is designed for airbrushing, so you can pour it straight into the airbrush, and it's got very fine pigment, so it looks absolutely smooth on flat surfaces. For the hand painting portion, I stuck with Citadel's base range just because the pigment density is really good, so you don't have to put on so many coats. For the red parts, I used Mephiston Red, and for the yellow parts, what I did was I used Retributor Armor, which is the gold paint, to put down a base coat, and then on top of that, I painted with Vallejo's Game Air Yellow. I like doing this because it's really hard painting yellow over any kind of dark surface, so that gold, that high pigment density gives you a good foundation, and then you can brush the yellow on top. Finally, I finished it out with a satin varnish, which I mixed 2 parts varnish, 1 part thinner, ran it through the airbrush, sprayed the entire model just to give it that uniform overall look and feel. So here we have the high-grade Blitz all painted up. As you can see on the shoulders, arms, and the legs, the gaps are all nicely filled in. And if we do a side-by-side comparison from when this was just built, wow, what a big difference that makes, right? You can barely tell that this was a $24 kit. So this is why I do like painting, even if it does take a little bit more time. So overall, building the kit itself took just over an hour, and then doing everything else minus filming time was about, I'd say, about 6 hours on and off.
At this point, I'd say the kit is about 90% done. I will make a third video. It'll probably be pretty short. It'll just be final touches such as panel lining and putting on stickers and then a little bit of posing of the kit. I've also worked out a new audio setup. So going forward, you can tell that towards the back half of this video, the audio quality is a lot better. So I'll be doing that from now on. Finally, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors on Patreon, Callum O'Malley, Dan Murray, Dave Vino, Eve Kusk, and Mike Story. Thank you guys so much for supporting our content, and we hope to make more for you guys. If you'd also like to support us, consider checking out our Patreon in the description below. Also, if you want to pick up your own kit, you can visit torchlightgh.com. We've got tons of kits, paints, models, and other tools. And if you find something on there, we can ship anywhere in Canada or the US. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next episode of Crimes Against Plastic.